came across this story the other day. We've been so focused, I guess financially, on the past couple of weeks on those CEBA loan repayments, right? Because the deadline is now passed and all the businesses that were having trouble paying them back, representing literally over 140, 150,000 businesses in this country. And then I read this article, and it turns out the Quebec government is dealing with its own loan defaults to business owners in this province. Don't worry, it's only to the tune of about $600 million.
Oh, is that all?
So I said, I don't understand this. Let's find out some more. Maurice Gosselin is an accounting professor at the Université of Laval in Quebec City. He's on the line right now. Monsieur Gosselin, from what I understand, this is not unique. This happens on a recurring basis. Is that accurate?
Yes, of course. Yes, this is true. There is what is called the Fonds de développement économique. So it's the Economic Development Fund in the government of Quebec. And this year, the provision for loans that may not be recovered has increased from $478 million, an increase of 23%. So there are many loans to different organizations that may not be recovered in the future, and therefore that will be an expense for the government of Quebec. And instead of building or renovating our schools where we're providing loans to companies that are not able to pay back.
So I'm trying to understand, though, this could be any kind of business applying to the government for a loan in a specific category. Are they startups? What kind of businesses, or all businesses?
Oh, it's all business. I mean, there are different programs. So there are specific programs in some industries. There are large organizations as well as small businesses. So it's very diverse. Now, in this specific fund, it's loans that are to not large companies, because usually when there are large companies, it's a specific project. So it's actually there are now the fund that I'm talking to you about has $5.7 billion of the capacity that they can loan money for large amounts of money. It has increased from 3.7 to $5.7 billion last year. And 16% of the loans are actually are loans that may not be recovered. So that's a major problem, because for these loans, many of them now it's also impossible for the companies to pay the interest on the loans.
So I guess what I'm wondering is when the government agrees to grant these loans, do they know the risks involved? Like, are they already going into it assuming they're going to lose a bunch of this money?
Well, of course, they assess the level of risk. Now, okay. Of course, it's they may in some cases underestimate the risk, and one risk that is very important now is the capacity of the organization to reimburse the loan in the context where interest rates have gone up, and therefore a lot of business now it's slowing down in many industries, and that's why it's getting a bit more difficult. So that's why we had this year a 23% increase in the loans that may not be recovered.
I'm wondering, so what does the government have in place? Because obviously, as you said before, this is not the first time we've done something like this. You assume you'll have a certain percentage of loans or defaults anyway at some point. That's just the nature of business, I guess. How much of this money can the government actually get back? What does history tell us they can get back?
We do not provide that information.
Of course they don't. Okay.
That's another issue here is that, of course, the information that is provided is like minimal, and they do not tell how many of these loans were written off last year, for instance.
Okay, that's troubling in and of itself. I mean, this is taxpayer money. You would think taxpayers have a right to know. Do you believe some kind of movement afoot to try to get them to give us that information?
Well, yes, there has been in the past, but it's very difficult because the government is always arguing that, well, these companies are in competition with other companies and they don't want to give that information to the public.
Right.
And the counter argument is that, well, if you want money from the government, if you want government assistance, well, then you have to accept to provide more information to the public, because ultimately it's the public that is bearing the risk for these loans. So that's a major problem. What we can notice with the present government is that it's very difficult to get the information.
Can I ask then, if I take that to the next logical step, how many of these end up going to court and actually suing or trying to go after the money that the government didn't get back?
Well, I haven't heard of any cases that went to court. They probably usually find other way to get out of this situation. So whether the loan is written off or whether there is a specific agreement with the company. So I don't know of any case where they went to court.
I know it sounds almost too easy. Anyone fulfilling whatever requirements you need to get a loan from whatever department within the government, and then just you say, sorry, it didn't work out, I can't pay you back, and that's the end of that.
Well, it's probably not that easy. But
I hope not.
But still, you have like this fund, le Fonds de Développement Économique. I mean, 16% of it through this fund are actually may not be recovered. So that's quite a lot. I mean, we could accept that there could be like a small percentage of these loans that could not be recovered, but 16%, and that's increasing every year.
Yeah.
So that's a major issue.
Something's going wrong.
And of course, the
here.
government again doesn't want to discuss about this much.
That's not okay. As you mentioned, that's $500 million that's not being spent on things that are much needed, like the renovation of schools. What should the government be doing here? Like, I'm wondering, do these businesses need more support so that they can be successful? Should the government see that they're in financial difficulty and at that point intervene to try and so that we don't end up in this situation with a $500 million loss?
It's always a problem, because then the company comes and says, well, we need a little more, and then it's going to get better. And so you need to make a decision. But overall, I think we need to have a discussion on government support in the context of 2024. We're not in the 1970s and the 1980s where governments would help companies to be able to create jobs. We're in the context where now we need manpower. We have manpower shortage in many areas. So we're supporting companies that are providing jobs, but we don't have people to do the job. So that's like, we need to change the paradigm. We need to think differently. If these companies cannot get funding from private sources, well, we really need to question how relevant government support is.
Sure.
And should we do that? And, there are so many examples in the past few years of a large amount of money that were losses. And the most recent example, of course, is the C-Series, where the government of Quebec lost $1.3 billion to Bombardier, Bombardier and Airbus, which are not, small companies, which are owned by big families, the Bombardier family, and we need to do that. And should we do that better? And of course, now the government of Quebec wants to increase the government support to different companies, and they're developing new programs. And of course, that's creating jobs, but that's creating jobs in the context where there is a shortage of manpower in many areas. And we have to increase immigration to have more manpower. So, like, there's something that doesn't work, and we need to have a discussion on government support.
I think that becomes pretty obvious. Mr. Gosselin, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for your input this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay.
in Quebec City. That's the money, $600 million bucks. That's money lost every year. Maybe not 600 million, but it's a continuum here. Government lends
Oh,
money,
this is crazy.
it doesn't get paid back. You write it off. We'll do it again next year.
Like,
something doesn't add
go
up
to the
here.
banks. Why are we?
What if private investment is not there? Why would the government then say, "Well, it's good enough for us to invest"? Even
Yeah,
if
sure, let's do it. That's what I mean.
I'll
Doesn't
get
make
it.
sense to me.